Can you hear that?
You are about to meet a fabulous artist who's going to teach you some incredible principles of painting. Please welcome Peggy Immel. Hey, Peggy.
Hi, Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm terrific. What are you going to do for us today?
Well, I'm going to teach you how to paint clouds, and I'm going to start that with a little introduction about how I mix colors, give you some information about atmospheric perspective, and then give you a step-by-step process for painting clouds, and I'll demonstrate that.
Okay, I want to show everybody a little of Peggy's work just so you can get a feel for it, so you know what you're about to get. Peggy lives in New Mexico. Where are you, in Santa Fe?
Taos.
Taos, I'm sorry. Big difference, big difference.
Yeah.
So as you can see from these paintings that I'm flipping through, Peggy is masterful at this. And wow, snow. You have snow now, don't you?
We do. It's snowing today, in fact.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Just beautiful distance there.
Thanks.
So anyway, Peggy, take it away.
Okay. Eric, I think, you're going to run slides.
I am.
For me?
Yep.
And I'll talk a little bit about, first I want to cover how I approach color, and that involves color mixing. And then I'll talk a little bit about atmospheric perspective, and then give you some tips for painting clouds. And I'll demonstrate those tips later in the show. So when I think about color, I consider that it has four components: hue, value, temperature, and chroma. And that's the hierarchy that I use when I am mixing color. I first consider the hue, then I consider the values, then I consider the temperature, and then I consider chroma. So next slide.
All right. You might want to explain what some of those terms mean, because there are people who don't know. So as we go through this.
Yes, I will. So hue is actually the color of the color. And there are hue families: 3 primaries, red, yellow, blue, and 3 secondaries, orange, purple, and green. And there's obviously black and white. And I guess those are colors. But for our purposes, when we're mixing paint, the first thing we have to consider is what hue family is it part of. And it's one of these 6. So we can go to the next slide. The second thing to consider when you start mixing color, and of course this is pigment, which is different than light, but that's another more complex thing to examine. When you start mixing color, the first thing you do is decide on the hue family. Then it becomes important to decide what value you need. And you do that by looking at your source and deciding from that source what value of the hue you want. You can lighten the value with white. You can darken it with black, although typically, well, you can darken it with black, but you have to look at the color and decide what value it is. That's a little complicated, and squinting helps to, makes it easier to decide what value a color is. Yellow's a tricky one.
Now, value, just for everybody's benefit, value means the level of darkness or lightness.
Right. The higher in values.
That might be a grayscale, but that could also be a light yellow to a dark, dark yellow, or red or green, or any mixture.
It could. It's the lightness or darkness of the color that you're mixing. And the closer a color is to white, the higher in value it is. And the closer it is to black, the lower it is. I know there are numbers, and I always am mixed up on the numbers. I don't know if one is white or one is black, but
doesn't matter right now.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide. This'll all, if you have any questions, if you see any questions.
I'll read questions out once we get into the painting demo area.
I think this will all make more sense when you see how it is applied to paintings. So the next thing I consider when I'm mixing a color in the hierarchy is the temperature of the color. And temperature is a little bit tricky because the primaries and the secondaries each have an inherent temperature. Each of those colors, blue is cooler than red. However, it's all relative. There can be a blue that is warmer than a cool blue. And a good example of that might be in pigments, cerulean blue as compared to cobalt blue. Cobalt's a colder blue than cerulean. Cerulean's warmer. So when you start thinking about temperature and color mixing, you have to consider how it relates to the other colors in that painting, and only that painting. That's the whole world, that painting. See if there's anything else I want to say. No, I think that's all. Do you have any questions about that?
Nope, keep going. I've got the next slide up.
The last thing to consider is the chroma. And some people think of chroma as saturation. I think the technical term is chroma. Chroma, a bright color, a pure color, has the highest chroma. And you can decrease the chroma of any color by a number of ways. You can add white to it. That will decrease the chroma and make it duller. You can add black to it. That will make it duller. Or you can add the complement. And that's a common way to decrease the chroma in a color.
Can you explain to everybody what a complement means?
A complement, if you look at a color wheel, the complement is the color on the color wheel that's opposite on the color wheel from a given color. So for example,
I'm going to come on, I'm just going to come on and show a
color wheel.
Color wheel.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a color wheel.
Great.
All right. So you're getting a reflection on it. I apologize.
When you look at that color wheel, the colors are distributed around the wheel, and the color that is opposite a color on the color wheel is its complement. So for example, the complement of blue, which is in your, that's purple, but let's use purple. The complement of purple is yellow. It's opposite on the color wheel. And typically the complement of a color is made up of the other two primary colors. For example, if yellow is the color you're trying to find the complement of, if you mix red and blue, you'll get purple.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get back to your slides now.
Right. So those are the four things I consider when I'm mixing color, and I do it in that order. I find the hue family. I try to mix the proper value. I try to then add whatever I need or subtract whatever I need to find the proper temperature. And I might add a complement to get the proper chroma. So when you're painting, this is all nice and it's all theory. When you're painting, the pigments you use matter, and they will affect how each of these colors behaves. So I recommend when you start, at least, that you pick some paints and stick with them for what I consider your painting palette. I like to use what's called a split primary or a warm cool primary. And that is, I use a warm yellow, a cool yellow, and that's relative to each other. It could be any two yellows you want, as long as one is warmer and one is cooler. So warm yellow, warm blue, warm red, cool red. You want to consider The quality of the paint, is it transparent? Is it an opaque paint? The color scheme, that affects how you'll mix colors. But the most important thing is to remember that when you're mixing colors for a painting, it's all about that painting. It's not about anything else. Anything off the painting doesn't matter. It's just that painting. It's all relative to what's on the canvas. So the result is you compare every time you put a color down on the canvas, you compare it. And this is what I ask myself. It's a kind of a mantra. Is it light enough? Is it dark enough? Is it warm enough? Is it cool enough? Is it bright enough? Is it dull enough? If you do that, it will guide you in color mixing. So all of that affects atmospheric perspective. And I want to talk a bit about how atmospheric perspective impacts each of these variables. Each of these is a color variable. There are hue effects, value effects, temperature effects, and chroma effects. So let's go to hue effects, because that's the first thing you do is you pick the hue.
Am I in the right? Yeah, okay.
Yep, yeah. When you look, when you're painting a landscape, the thing to always remember is there is a thing that I call hue dropout. The closest things to you have yellow in them. As the distance increases, the light, I guess it's the wavelengths of the yellow drop out, and you're left with only red and blue. That's why you get.
If I could just interrupt for a second, I guess I think this will help some clarity for people who might not understand this concept. If you look at that mountain all the way in the back, if you were standing on that mountain, you would see these trees and these colors exactly as they are here in the foreground. So what you're seeing is everything in that picture are these colors, but because of the consider it a piece of, it's rain droplets or water droplets or distance, or almost consider it layers of glass where it gets further and further back. That's what will help understand that.
Right. Atmosphere filters out the wavelength of lights, and it happens in the sequence, and it's the same sequence every time. The first wavelength that drops out is yellow. That leaves you red and blue, which can create purple. The next thing that drops out, the next wavelength that drops out is red, and that leaves you blue. And eventually blue drops out and you have a kind of a pale white color. There's one exception to this, and that is that sometimes light clouds and when the sky appears light, atmosphere pollution will color it a slight yellow. So that's something that you can use, and it does happen. You'll see it if you look at great distances. But for the most part, just always remember, get rid of the yellow first, then the red, then the blue. Okay.
Now, what about when you see clouds? Like, sometimes you'll see clouds where, the clouds are really, really yellow, but they're pretty far away.
Well, that's because of the atmospheric pollution. And that's what I'm saying, is that a light color like white in a cloud will become yellower as it moves away from you because of pollution.
Okay. All right.
And you can see that. So the next thing, the next effect of atmosphere on is the next thing that's affected that you should consider is the value. What happens to the value of colors? What effect does atmosphere have on that? And it has basically two effects on the value. Objects get lighter because I guess less wavelengths are coming toward you, and there's less contrast between those objects. And I've used this one, this painting, so you can see behind the trees that everything is getting considerably lighter. I think that was a rainy day, so that increased that effect. but that happens. Lighter and less contrast between objects. So next, atmosphere has an effect on the temperature of color. So we're still following that hierarchy of what hue family is it, what is the value, now the temperature, consider temperature. This little sketch was done at Grand Canyon last September when there were all those fires. And what basically happens is that as the yellow drops out and then the red, the appearance is that things get cooler in the distance. And I thought this showed that quite well. And again, you can see the yellow in the sky from the pollution. So that's a pretty standard thing that people know, that it gets cooler as you move back. Okay, next. One that I personally have struggled with sometimes is the effect of atmosphere on chroma or saturation. There's a considerable decrease in the saturation of a color as it moves back. These are three moving targets: value, temperature, and chroma, and they're all decreasing as the distance from you increases. So atmosphere affects all three of those things. The mountains the color's less saturated. It moves more to a neutral gray, even though it's getting cooler, it's getting lighter. So I guess that's, do you have any questions about that part?
I don't, and right now I'm not going into comments and questions because of the slides, but I have another slide here.
Yep. So when you're painting, this is what you consider with color. Consider the quality of the pigments you're using. Are they transparent? Are they opaque? And use whatever palette you're using for a while so you begin to understand how they behave when you mix them. If you're going to have a color scheme, if you're going to plan a color scheme, that's great. I think it's really helpful to do that. If you're painting a green scene, for example, that's a lot of green. Sometimes a little touch of a complement red will help that. So consider the color scheme. Consider the relativity of the color to what is in the painting. And the example I would use is a warm green. I've got a little drawing there. A warm green in one painting, there's a cool green and a warm green on the left. The warm green might become the cooler pigment in a different painting. I couldn't find a yellow green, but I used yellow. So it's all relative when we talk about temperature. And then this series of questions I think you should always ask yourself. Is it light enough? Is it dark enough? Is it warm enough? Is it cool enough? Is it bright enough? Is it dull enough? If you just keep asking those questions when you're mixing color, you'll find it easier and more systematic. It's a more systematic way to move into color mixing.
All right.
So
you want the next slide?
Yep. So how does all of this apply to clouds? Because that's where we started. I think that clouds are a great subject for examining color temperature. Obviously, the things I'm going to talk about here, there are always exceptions. So if you say, well, I saw the cloud and it didn't behave like that, well, that's possible. But typically, when I'm painting a cloud, I mix two grays. I mix a warm gray and a cool gray. And I use the hue family blue. I mix them up. I try to get close to the right value. I consider the temperature. I have a warm and a cool. And I dull them down a little bit with, I use blues a lot, so I might dull it down with an orange to decrease the chroma on it. So the bottom of most clouds, if you observe them, is a very cool gray. And then as the belly of the cloud rolls up, it becomes warmer to a very light, kind of almost a white gray. And then there'll be a very warm white on the sunny side of the cloud. So it's a system to use, and there's great variety in clouds. So as long as you follow that system, you can then incorporate the variety, and you don't have to think every time, how should I start this? You just start with the cool, move to the warm, and then the light. As the other thing about clouds is, as they move into the distance, they get closer together. Just like anything, like railroad ties or fence posts, they follow the rules of linear perspective. And the other thing I always have to tell myself is that clouds are actually vapor. So they're not solid objects. That's sometimes hard to capture when you're painting them.
Well, we need to get you painting some clouds.
Great.
All right. You're on.
Do you want me to go ahead and get started, or?
I'd like that. Yes, very much.
Okay, great. I'm going to have to move my camera.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'm just going to take you off screen for a second and just say hi to everybody. I'm Eric Rhoads, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. We have been here every day, 307 days in a row, twice a day, 12 noon Eastern time and 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. every day, we give you samples of the art instruction videos that we've created, many hundreds of them. Today, you're going to see Lynn Gertenbach in the 1 hour landscape. It's a big seller. It's a great video and teaches you how to do a very quick landscape in an hour. And so you're going to see parts of that and an interview with Lynn today at 3 p.m. And it's from this video. And as we have been doing during COVID times, we're giving a discount on these videos when we air them, which will be in the comments section when we air it. And that's a good thing for you, because we're trying to help you through this. We're trying to help the artists, and of course, trying to help ourselves a little bit too. So today is a big day. We're getting prepared. We got a brand new floor in our sound stage. Our floor kind of got messed up through some moving of equipment. So we put a new floor down. We're all ready for Watercolor Live. That starts tomorrow. We're going into rehearsals tonight. We have the beginner day starting tomorrow. And then 3 days after that, our full Watercolor Live course. So we have some of the world's leading artists, quite frankly, some of the world's leading artists even on Beginner's Day. And so really just attending all four is really a great idea. There's still time for you. We're almost at 1,700. I think the last number I saw was 666 or 7. And we very well could hit a bigger number than that, because a lot of people around the world are tuning in. We have, I think, 39 or 40 countries now, and it's going to be pretty cool. So you should join us. There's a money back guarantee. You watch the first day. If you don't feel like you got your money's worth on the first day alone, let us know by the end of the first day. We'll refund your money, and you can go on your merry way. Should also mention to you that we have some fabulous sponsors. They're doing some great videos and giving away some stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, what's going on? I've got a job opening at Streamline for a senior marketing specialist to sell advertising in these magazines, Plein Air and Fine Art Connoisseur. Just go to work@streamline.com. We're about to post a bunch of new jobs. We're growing. Last chance to enter to win the Thomas Schaller painting, $7,000 painting. You can win, and hey, try to win it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just go to paintinggiveaway.com and do that. You can follow me at Eric Rhoads on Instagram. I would really appreciate a follow. A lot of people watching this who have not done that yet, and I, quite frankly, I have an evil plan. My evil plan is I got to get my numbers up, and the reason I got to get my numbers up is there's certain things that I cannot function until I get my numbers over a certain number. So if you would be so kind as to just go over to Instagram and follow me, that would be really sweet. I'd appreciate it very much. Also, what else is going on? I think that's pretty much all I've got to talk about today. I think I've done that. So let's get back to Peggy Immel now. She should have her camera set up. Okay, Peggy, are you all set up and ready to go?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
How's that?
That's good. Okay, take it away.
All right, good. All right. So if I get in the way, just let me know.
I will.
I drew this out last night so that I wouldn't have to spend time doing that. First thing I'm going to do is lay in the darkest dark part of this painting. And I'm using 3 greens. I've taken sap green. Can you see this? Well, taken sap green and I've mixed it with raw sienna and transparent oxide red and ultramarine blue. So I have a warm dark, a cool dark, and a warm but transparent light. Raw sienna is pretty transparent. So I'm just going to lay that in quickly. One of the things to think about when you start a painting, one of the first things to think about is where is the sun coming from? Because that will help you to decide what part of a plant or a tree, for example, should be warmer, what part should be cooler. So my sun is coming from the upper left. Does it look like upper left on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is pretty transparent. I'm laying it in pretty transparent. The other thing I want to mention is that on my palette here, I've mixed my cool gray for the clouds and also to use for the painting. And that cool gray is made up of ultramarine and orange and white.
Okay.
And then I took I made a huge pile of that, and I took part of that pile and I turned it into a warm gray by mixing raw sienna with it and a little more orange and a little more white. So I have my warm gray, my cool gray, and I mixed a couple of warm whites, one with yellow ochre and white, it's titanium white, and one with cadmium and white.
Do you always pre-mix like that, or are you that organized?
Yeah, I do. That way I don't have to think, I don't interrupt the painting flow with the mixing. However, I'm going to do something right now, and I haven't pre-mixed it. I'm going to mix the color of the sage here. I'm going to lay in this distant.
Now, keep in mind the atmospheric perspective that Peggy talked about. So that's less dark and less yellow in the back there, right?
Yes, it is. I'm using blue. I've added just a touch of my cool gray to it, but I still want to keep it pretty dark.
Okay. Hey, hello to Honduras. Nice to have you here. Pakistan, British Columbia. Gosh, people from all over the world today. Thank you very much for tuning in. India. I'll shout them out from time to time, Peggy.
Oh, great. All right. I'm taking that cool gray that I mixed up in advance, and I'm going to use it for a distant mountain here. All the if you look at that, will mean that all the yellow is out. That's not quite dark enough for me for that. I'm going to put a little cobalt blue in it.
Why do you use yellow as your lines? Just curious.
Orange? Well, you know, I have to tell you, it's a security issue. I started out using an orange underwash for warmth.
Yeah.
I think it adds warmth.
And you're painting on what kind of a panel?
This is the panel is a Clausen's 13 linen prime. I love it. And it's mounted on gator board. So
all right. Who makes those?
I think Raymar makes them. This is single prime. This one is made by Source Tech. I want to add a little bit of red to that mountain. It's not feeling quite right. Okay. The other thing I want to be sure not to do, this is a rosemary brush, I love these, is have this bush on the left be shaped exactly like the bush on the right. It's easy to do that. I think I was an architecture major in college and worked in that field for a while. So I kind of have an engineering mindset. And when things don't line up, I think my brain just keeps trying to make them the same.
All right. Hello, Norway and South Africa. What kind of palette is that? Is that a strata palette?
You know, this is the, yes, it is. It's the, I can't remember the exact name of it. I think it's
one that mounts on a tripod. I mean, you just lay it in the legs of the tripod.
Well, no, yeah, you do. And this one, this particular one is the one that you have a staff. So, you know, like a vertical post.
Yeah.
So you can actually, you can paint bigger paintings as opposed to the one where you put the painting on the lid. I don't know the difference in the name.
Yeah. Yeah. Push-on box.
Okay.
Okay.
So I want to put in the sage color also. And I have a kind of a personal favorite for doing that of cerulean blue. I like to mix cerulean and cobalt blue with raw sienna and yellow ochre. I think I'm an inherently lazy painter, so I like to use pre-mixed colors and then alter them. Rather than start with just red and yellow and blue and try to come up with it. Cerulean is pretty close. You'll see here. I'm putting it in fairly dark. And I'm just scrubbing it in. And now I'm going to take a paper towel and scrub that in. How much time do I have, by the way?
You've got about 25 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to scrub this in and get to the, try to go ahead and get to the clouds because that's why we're here. But this will be a sense of the values. I've lightened that a little. The reason I'm using the paper towel is these marks will actually look like bushes.
Yeah, scrubby.
Yeah, I'll go over them with more opaque colors.
Hey, Peggy, I've got to mention something to everybody because I forgot. But okay. The winner of the value specs from yesterday is Betty K. Lewis from North Carolina. Give her a round of applause. She will now see perfect values when she's painting. Today's prize will be a digital subscription to Plein Air magazine, which has got 20% more content than the print magazine. Most people get both. And so if you leave comments, you might be able to win that digital subscription. Also want to tell you guys that just a few days left on the 31st, the Plein Air Salon ends, and you want to get your entries into that. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Oh, I think the value specs are a great idea. You know, it's interesting how that works. The red filters out. Does it filter out the red? Is that what it does?
It filters out, I don't know, it filters out everything but the red, I think. But
well, the reason
but what it does is it basically reduces it down so you see the values.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and put some of these clouds in, lock them in. And I'm using my dark cool gray. I'm going to add a little bit of transparent oxide red to that, just to darken it up and dull it down a bit and make it a little different than the mountains there. I'm struggling a little with scrubbing it in because I'm not used to painting to the side of a painting.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's okay. I know people will be understanding.
Of course.
I like to use the brushes. I like to scrub with them. All right. Next, I'm going to come in with some of the warm gray. I don't know if you can see this. I've done this before. I have a little, let's see here. This is a study.
Hold it still. Okay, good. All right, now we can see it. I also forgot to show your reference image. I guess I could show that too.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I have this study from having done this painting. I did a large painting of this. And one thing I'm doing as I'm painting is I'm warming this up just a hair. One thing you'll see sometimes that is a little bit different is sometimes there's a very strong bit of sunlight and there'll be a warm bounce from the ground up on the underside of a cloud. But typically the cloud goes from cool on the bottom to warmer to light warm white.
But if you are getting that reflected light from the bottom, you just store that underneath your cool.
You do. You can just add it in there.
Yeah.
So I find it easier to paint if I have a system that I can fall back on. I don't want to use it to make everything the same, but I like having the system. And that's why I have those questions that I ask. Is it light enough? Is it dark enough? It looks dark enough to me.
Hello, United Kingdom. Somebody said what kind of brushes she's using. Rosemary brushes.
I'm using rosemary brushes, and these are Silver Grand Prix.
Silver brush, okay.
Grand Prix flats.
Yeah.
For my bristles. And
Silver put some samples in our kit at the Adirondacks a year or two ago, and I really have started enjoying using those too. I use a lot of Princeton's, a lot of rosemary, a lot of everything.
One thing I like, for years I spent a fortune on brushes, and I'd buy filberts, I'd buy flats, I'd buy brights, and it was expensive, and then I didn't like them. And I might not like the shape. What I like on this brush is it starts out as a nice flat, and then after I grind away on it for a while, it ends up being a nice filbert. And eventually they end up being like this.
Stubs.
And I can use them for scraping.
Yeah.
So I only have to buy one brush in 3 sizes.
Okay. Hello, Nova Scotia.
Why I do that. I'm going to put some sky in now. I'm going to mix some cerulean with white over here. And it needs to be light enough, light enough, light enough. Put a little yellow in that. So I can use that little sketch I did. I have plastic over it. I can touch on it. I want to get to the fun part, which is where you put the light on. I'm adding a little yellow white in that.
If you guys are enjoying this, give a thumbs up or an applause or a heart or something, but also hit the share button so that others can discover this Looks like you just softened up your sky.
I did. That's a rosemary brush. So that flat.
Yeah.
Rosemary Long, Series 279. They're great brushes.
Yeah, they are good brushes.
I used to use Mongoose. I heard you say to somebody recently that Mongoose can't be.
They can't sell mongoose anymore.
No.
It's an endangered species, even though they're running wild in Hawaii and are a big giant pest. But,
are they?
Yeah. But yeah.
Are they like a weasel? Is that what a mongoose is?
You're asking the wrong guy. But I would say this, that if you have mongoose brushes, take good care of them and hold on to them, because they do paint differently than anything else. They're great for portrait work.
Yeah.
Really
I have a few.
Soft. What I did is I took my rosemary mongoose brushes, of which I have many, and I dipped the tips of the brushes in red nail polish.
Huh.
That way, I just know that I've got to take extra care because it's a rarity. And I tell my kids, if they're coming into the studio, they can't use the ones with the red tips.
So are they you mean you put red on the handles?
Yeah, on the mongoose.
Yeah. Well, I have some, but the other thing that happens with them is they would come out, they'd lose their hair.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah. So I think this brush that Rosemary's got going, it's a nice substitute for that.
So you got about 12 minutes or so.
Oh, I better get the fun part in.
Stop talking and get painting, girl.
Yeah. Sorry, I think the presentation went too long.
No, it was very valuable.
I think it's important to understand about each of these components of color.
Yeah.
And to be able to systematically manipulate them. It's the place it gets difficult is when we lose track of what needs to be changed and what needs to be altered, because it's 4 moving targets: hue, value, temperature, chroma, and they're all pretty important.
I just learned something new from Catherine Noel Frederick, who said someone imported mongoose in Hawaii to take care of the rat problem, not knowing that rats are nocturnal and mongoose are not. Oops.
That's pretty funny.
Now they're running wild.
So I'm putting this on.
You're kind of blocking the camera. There we go.
Putting that on with my
palette
knife just to get it thicker. I'm going to do the road last because
I have trouble with roads, especially if they're in light, to get the color of dirt or the color of even the asphalt and make it look right. Yep. Hello, Saudi Arabia. Thank you for tuning in.
Maybe somebody could do a demonstration on painting roads.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what I should do for a living, since that's my name.
That was pretty funny. I like that. Okay, I have a palette knife. I'm putting this light white on.
Is that pure white?
This is, these are my 2 warm whites that I mixed. Ochre. I'll go into a lighter white later, but it's the white with the ochre and the white with the cad yellow. Clouds are kind of abstract, I guess I should look at my reference a little. Sometimes
I'll put your reference up so people can see it.
Yeah, sometimes I just sort of ignore the reference. I guess there's a point at which in a painting when the reference is less important than the painting itself.
Well, you're not trying to copy a photograph.
Exactly.
Trying to make a piece of art.
It's what the painting needs. So I'm using these 2 warm whites with my 2 grays, my warm gray and my cool gray. Now I'm going to come in with this brush and work on it.
You're going to soften it down?
Yeah, make it look more make it look more painterly.
I'm not. So you use your palette knife because you wanted to get a lot of paint on there.
Exactly. It's a speed thing. Also, I like the accidental quality of things that happen sometimes with a palette knife. You know, when you put something on with a brush and plan it, as in these are going to be a little rough.
Outstanding.
So let's see here.
All right.
I think you can bring a lot more finish to these as you work them.
I want to see you paint that road. You don't want to run out of time.
Okay. I want to do one more thing, though, to the clouds.
Okay.
I'm going to put just a little bit brighter. I'm mixing the color. I should have pre-mixed everything.
Well, hey, you can't be perfect.
I'm always thinking temperature here. I'm thinking warmer. There's a lot of yellow in that.
Hope you guys are enjoying this today. Deborah says, I wish I could paint rough and fast, especially painting from the side. You know, you'll get there. You know, you have to learn to lose yourself and not noodle everything perfectly.
The road. Well, you know, I'm going to tell you that the best training for painting loose and fast is watercolor. And
oh, well, that's right.
Because when I used to paint in watercolor more often, I used to liken it to riding bareback.
Yeah.
You have a plan, but then you kind of have to go.
Whoops.
I think I'll need to move that back in, huh?
Yeah.
There.
Well, our big watercolor conference starts tomorrow. We got 39 or 40 countries signed up and almost 1,700 people attending. Well, it's the largest art conference in the world.
That's terrific. Well, they're going to learn a lot. And I think watercolor is one of the great mediums. Can you still see everything okay, or did I?
Yeah, we're cool.
Okay. All right. I'm going to get to the road.
All right, let's do it.
I'm using transparent oxide red, which I don't know if this is a good reference, but it's kind of like crack. You know, it's so
a wonderful color.
It's hard to quit using it. I used it instead of burnt sienna. I'm mixing a little gray with that, using raw sienna. I'm using raw sienna a lot because it's transparent. I think this needs to be warmer, though. So let's see here.
I'm going to pull up your reference photo real quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's kind of looks like a terracotta road.
Yeah.
Very, very New Mexico.
I'm going to get a bigger brush here so we can go faster.
Yeah, you got about 5 minutes left.
All right. I'll finish this painting and I'll Shall I send you one? Shall I send?
Just post it in the comments when you're done.
Okay.
There will be a lot of people who have questions, and this in the replays, we'll have many tens of thousands who will be watching the replays. So
okay,
post it for later.
Because the things in the bottom that I'm doing here are really preliminary. I've added some cooler color to that. Now, one thing I do want to do is lighten this as it goes into the distance. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be duller. I'm going to just try that sky gray, the warm sky gray, and see if that will do it. Now.
People are loving you, Peggy.
Oh, that's good. I need all the love I can get.
What kind? Yeah, we all do. What kind of brand of transparent oxide red do you use?
I use Rembrandt.
Okay.
Because it's pretty runny, and
yep.
I use it primarily for want to get a dark in there. I use it primarily for underpainting, you know, for the darks, and I like those to be fairly transparent.
Okay. If you're watching on YouTube, it's not going to get posted on the YouTube comments. So if you want to get into the comments, go over to Facebook, just search Streamline Art Video on Facebook, and then that's where she's going to post the image. It'll come across to everybody watching in most of the other platforms, but not all of them.
You know, a couple of friends told me they were going to watch, and I told them heckling is allowed.
What's allowed?
Heckling. Are there any hecklers in there?
Oh, hecklers.
Yeah.
No, there's no hecklers. But now that you mention it, I'm sure somebody will start heckling.
Yeah.
Can you, Deborah asks, can you explain transparent versus opaque?
You mean a definition? You mean in terms of the paints, or?
Well, I think the definition, what's the difference between transparent and opaque? One you can see through, the other blocks things out.
Yes. I'm using a paper towel now to mark the road, to lighten it. One of the things I really like is for the white of the canvas to bounce back up through some parts of the painting.
Yeah, I like
so
it.
A transparent color allows that. An opaque color doesn't allow that. It covers up the canvas, and you don't get that bounce of the white back through the paint. Stained glass is a good example.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Hello, Gerda in the Netherlands. Welcome. Now you're getting some hecklers.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
I'm going to put
kind
some of this.
What towels do you use?
The cheapest ones, because they're scratchy.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Because you want texture.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you for the wonderful compliment. Said Streamline Art Video is the best thing to ever exist. That's very sweet of you. We work very hard at that.
I thought it would be fun to get at least one of these trees in.
Okay, well, you got 2 minutes, and then I'm cutting you off.
Okay.
And then you're going to come back on camera. Yeah, if you didn't, somebody who said they wish they joined earlier, there's a whole process where she explains the stages of a painting and the various things you need to understand. It's worth seeing. Peggy's a great teacher.
Oh, thanks, Eric. All right. Well, I've got a long ways to go with this.
Well, you really nailed it, though. It was really fabulous that you got that much done in that short a period of time. Why don't you come back on camera?
Okay.
So if you guys are watching for the first time, we're on here every day at 12 noon Eastern and also at 3 p.m. Where we're giving instructional videos as well. Our guests at 12 noon are usually painting, sometimes different things. And today's guest is Peggy Immel. So Peggy, come back on camera. There we go. You did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. It was really fun.
It was fun. So, Peggy, your website is probably what? PeggyImmel.com?
Yes, PeggyImmel.com.
All right.
I have a couple of Zoom workshops coming up.
Okay. Well,
one in February, one in March.
Okay. Well, check it out at PeggyImmel.com. That would be good.
Yep.
You know, it's behind me. I didn't intend this, but I'm working on a cloud painting.
Ha!
That's a plein air piece that I did a couple summers ago, and now I'm going to refine it and send it to one of my galleries because I need the money.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Now you know to warm it up.
Yeah, I'm going to warm up the clouds and warm up the grass. It's just a little bit too blue for me. Anyway, thank you for being here today. We really appreciate it. It was fun having you. Nice to see you. We have some fond memories together at the plein air conventions, and it's always nice to have you there and see you there.
I love being there. I'll be at the next one.
Okay, well, fingers crossed we're going to be able to hold it at the plein air convention in May in Denver. So I think if we're allowed to come out, it's going to sell out fast because everybody's ready to get out and go.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been saving their money because they haven't had to go out to dinner a lot and things like that. But also, you know, a lot of people need money. So anyway, Peggy, thank you for being here today. And we'll have you back.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Our guest today was Peggy Immel. You can find her at PeggyImmel.com. And thank you again for tuning in. Remember that Watercolor Live starts tomorrow, the Beginner's Day. You can just sign up for the Beginner's Day and nothing else, and it's worth it. And we guarantee if you pay the money and that day isn't worth the entire price of admission, you can get your money back because we want you to be satisfied. We have the world's best artist teaching. It's at watercolorlive.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, this is day 307. We've been doing it consistently since coronavirus. Want to be there for you just to keep you kind of focused on something other than the virus and the quarantine. And, you know, I know a lot of people are stuck at home and a little bored and a little frustrated. Just don't let it get to you. Just stay positive and upbeat and keep your head in the game. Thank you for being here. I'm going to get to go over to a rehearsal for Watercolor Live in a little bit. And then tomorrow morning it begins. You still have time to sign up if you want to. Love having you guys here. Thank you for this. Have a great day. Bye.